Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Baseball Podcast. It is me, Joe Pisapia, and today we're going to have some fun with a little mock draft action for you. 10 teams head-to-head. We're going to do 5x5, but instead of batting average, it's going to be a little OBP action today. And speaking of on base, our guys on base today, the Welsh, as always, Frank Stampfl from CBS, and our buddy KC Bubba from the Fantasy Black Book Baseball HQ, and the Bubba Bloom Pod, pretty good podcast as well. And today we're going to be drafting with our friends, you, the people, our users over here at Fantasy Pros. We got you straight from our Discord, fantasypros.com/chat. Again, I keep telling everybody it's free to join, and when you join, you get to be involved in fun things like this. So today, we're going to do just that. We're going to run through the mock draft for you, have a little fun, 4 bench spots. We're going to keep it a little brief today, but we're also going to go through with, again, catcher, first, second, third, shortstop, corner, middle, 4 outfielders, a DH, 9 pitcher spots, and we're going to have a good time. Frank Stampfl, you are on the clock at the very top of things here, so let's kick things off here with you. Ronald Acuna, still waiting results of that MRI, but is that going to shade your opinion of your first overall pick here, Frank?
No, it will not. I will be selecting Ronald Acuna. Like you said, we're waiting to learn more about Ronald Acuna's knee, but he was so far and away ahead of the competition in terms of what we were expecting this year. The projections had him something like a $55, $60 player. Even if you dock some of that production or he misses, the first month or even like the first couple of weeks, I still think he's going to be the 1-1. And that is who I will be selecting.
It's a wild thing, too. I was looking over, doing a little audit of all the ranks and everything. I don't think I've ever seen this before in any sport. There is not one deviation to another first pick in all of the ranks. In every single ranker on Fantasy Pros, nobody deviated to a different player at number 1 overall. In my years of looking at football and baseball, I have never seen that before. Acuna, officially the man.
Way to jinx it, Welsh. So I'm sure today, after this show is over, we're going to get some bad news about the knee, and now we'll have to panic and rethink that. So if there's any,
your bad juju now, not mine.
You're a Welsh, not a Welsh. That's what you are. Mookie Betts goes second in our draft here to D. Fugshurl Jr. I don't know. I can't even make that out. The print is so small. DF Hughes Jr. I can't even see it. It's so tiny here. I'm going to have to change to the draft board setting, which is spectacular. Yeah, DF Hughes Jr. Sir Diddy's Subjects selects Juan Soto in the OBP League at 103. KC Bubba, you're at the bat. What do you have?
Ooh. I took Aaron Judge in this one. When it comes to OBP formats, he's one of the top 3 players on my list. So just got to pray he stays healthy. 40-plus homers, all the OBP. I'll take Aaron Judge.
You will take Aaron Judge. Julio Rodriguez goes next at 105 to Johnny Quest. And again, we're using our mock draft software over at Fantasy Pros. If you haven't used Draft Wizard yet, sync your leagues, go over, download Draft Wizard, go to fantasypros.com/mock. You can use the draft simulator. You can use the mock draft lobby and draft against real people. You can create your own mocks, send them to friends and enemies. But again, the greatest mock draft software in the history of the universe. You can undo your picks, go through if you don't like your team and redo it again. You can run a mock draft in somewhere around 10 minutes, actually probably around 5 if you do it really quick. And of course, that means you can run a lot within a short period of time, and we like to do that. I ran 3 myself before the show today. Scam selects 106, Corbin Carroll, Shohei Ohtani to the Welsh at 107, and I'm coming up soon. So, Welsh, let's talk about your Ohtani pick.
Well, I did want Corbin Carroll. I'm actually in my tout league. It's an OBP. It's draft and hold, and we had the same thing happen. I ended up taking Carroll. I think I get Carroll like 9 or something, 8. I don't remember where I was drafting, somewhere similar. But we had the same, like Bobby Witt falling, Julio was falling, and I got Carroll, who was still a pretty good OBP guy. So that's what I was locked into. But I've made it be known on my ranks. I am all in for Ohtani. I said this before. If he wasn't a DH only, util only player, and he qualified at any position, I think you would legitimately be considering him a top 3 overall player. So I'm trying to stay position agnostic and just take the stats, get going. I think Ohtani could be the number 1 overall fantasy player. So I'm going to bite it a little bit by technically filling no position with Ohtani, but he's the best offensive player on the board.
No, I was kind of surprised you didn't take Bobby Witt Jr. I got to say. I know
low OBP. That was it. Only low OBP.
I know, but come on. All the power, all the speed, all the Bobby Witt Jr. Welsh. All right. Kyle Tucker goes after Bobby Witt. C. Shalmer 07 67 selects Bobby Witt Jr. at 108. Then Jaeger Bombs, I know how to say that one, at 109. Kyle Tucker is the selection. I selected at the turn at 110, taking Fernando Tatis Jr. and Jose Ramirez. I could have taken either Freddie Freeman or I could have taken Matt Olson. I decided to do something a little different today, shake it up a little bit, because I end up at the turn a lot here in these drafts, and I end up taking one of those first basemen. So I'm going with the big outfielder and the third baseman, Jose Ramirez. Want those stolen bases there as well, which I think better chance of Jose Ramirez stealing those bases again than Freddie Freeman, because when you get old, you just don't move so well. Freddie Freeman goes at 202, then Spencer Strider at 203. Matt Olson, there he goes to the Welsh. So there you go. I passed. That's a win for you, Welsh.
Thanks. Yep, absolutely. I'll take 80 home runs to start out my draft. Get some stolen bases. By the way, I would have slam picked Freddie Freeman on the wheel for you. I get you changing it around, but Freddie Freeman in this format, phenomenal. But I'm very happy going heavy power. Something I actually just talked about. You're going to see it here in the next day or two. The Welsh draft cheat sheet, which is going to be available over here on Fantasy Pros, and talked about early rounds taking really heavy power. I'm pretty comfortable with, especially in a 10-team format here. So give me heavy power. We'll make up the stolen bases a little bit later.
Okay, so after Matt Olson, Garrett Cole goes to Scam at 205. Then Alvarez goes next to Johnny Quest. KC Bubba, who did you select with the 207?
One of the best OBP players out there, and Bryce Harper. I think he's going to be in for an NL MVP type season this year. Tons of power, more speed than Judge, of course. Similar to Welsh, I'll take all the power early and elite OBP skills, and I'll get steals later in a 10-team format.
Elite. That's what we like. All right, so let's continue on here with this mock draft. After Bryce Harper, Sir Subject selected Trey Turner, Corbin Burns went to Hughes, and then Stampfl at the turn. The picks are in. So Frank, tell us what you did.
Yeah, nothing wrong has ever happened with selecting 2 New York Mets in a row. And
what could go wrong, Frankie? What could go wrong?
Only everything, but I went with Francisco Lindor and Pete Alonso. I love Bubba. I don't love him right now because Bryce Harper is like my guy this year. Like I whenever I can get Bryce Harper in the early rounds, I'm happy to do it, especially in OBP. I thought that was an awesome pick, Bubba. But yeah, I went with Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor, Ronald Acuna, the first pick. So I got one of my outfield spots already. And what Acuna allows you to do is it gives you flexibility because he covers all the bases, right? So I come back, I take Pete Alonso, get the massive power. OBP should be fine. Counting stats will be there. Entering a contract here, I think Pete Alonso is just going to go ballistic. And Lindor was one of like 6-7 players to go 30-30 last year. So he's awesome. Not the biggest OBP, but yeah, power, speed, and I think the counting stats will be there as well.
He was so undervalued last year, Frank, in drafts. I couldn't believe it. And obviously not the case this year. He already went to here in the top 25 players off the board. And whenever you make your adjustments when you're going in to do a mock draft on Fantasy Pros, what I like too is if it is an OBP league, automatically it's going to sort the players differently and give you different suggestions. You'll see the projected OBPs instead of the projected batting average. So it makes all the adjustments for you, which is really helpful when you're trying to, flex those draft muscles here. As we continue on here, the draft board is unfolding. Austin Riley at 302, Rafael Devers at 303, Ozzy Albies at 304, and that is your pick. I love this. I'm a big Albies guy. Another guy last year kept talking about how undervalued he was. This year, again, now more of a top 25 player. So let's talk about Albies and the big win for KC Bubba here.
Yeah, I mentioned I do need some steals eventually, and this is one that OBP, you get 5 categories with Ozzy Albies, best offense in baseball, and I'm a big fan of what he can do. The steals are down from what we saw a few years ago, but there still could be 15 steal upside with tons of other production there. So love Ozzy Albies in this thing. And I did want to mention, Joe's been pumping the draft wizard here. I wrote 3 articles on Fantasy Pros about using this draft wizard and different ways to look at it. So big fan of this product they got there.
Hey, man, makes life easy. That's why I like it. Certainly my life, that's for sure. Corey Seager goes after you at 305, then Marcus Semien, the teammates back-to-back. Welsh, you went pitcher here at 307. Who was it?
I went with Zach Wheeler. I mean, that was just a good fallback, major strikeouts, every category you're looking for with pitching. I will tell you, though, here's I could have just avoided it. And you know what? More I think about it, in a 10-team, you could. But I felt a little strung to taking a DH util only in the first position, that I was less comfortable taking another first baseman because I wanted to take Vlad, and taking Olson and Vlad. Then I felt like I was pressing myself positionally, but you can kind of do that in a 10-team. So I pivoted to take a high-end pitcher because, it's a good spot for it. Zach Wheeler's one of those few guys that I would target, and I am back up with some options. What should I
Well,
choose, gentlemen?
Well, you mull your options. I want to talk about what else is up next because football season is over, but the action on the floor is heating up. Whether it's tournament season or you're fighting for home court advantage, there's no shortage of high stakes basketball moments this time of year. March Madness is around the corner, and you can get in on all the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. And it's not just NBA, it's not just college basketball. We got baseball and Prize Picks too. We did a ton of Prize Picking last year on the show on Leading Off. And no matter where you're talking about, when you're trying to get some extra action, get some fun, Prize Picks is a great way to do it, especially if you are a fantasy player. You have the opportunity to turn some of that knowledge with some of the prop market into cash. So download the Prize Picks app today and use that promo code Leading Off. Again, that's one word, Leading Off, for a first deposit match up to $100 right here on Prize Picks today. All right, Welsh, I gave you some time to make your pick. What's the decision?
I decided to go with Pablo Lopez. So I took elite pitching 3-4, something I've done in multiple 10-man mocks that I've done this year. You would think, and because in theory, like it's right, like, hey, we just have more players. We can all, build it out. But one of the things that happens is every team is good. All the 10 teams are good. So finding the advantages right now, I think I have an advantage in the power department, and I went high in on 2 high-end pitchers, which I've seen some big runs in 10-team leagues happen. So I'm trying to get an upper hand on the pitching market. Pablo Lopez and Zach Wheeler, big strikeouts, good ERA numbers. That's my early advantage, but I clearly have some deficiencies because I have one actual position not filled out, and I have no stolen bases right now.
Smells like a Yusturi Ruiz roster to me, Welsh, at some point. I feel like that pick is on the horizon. So will Welsh's stolen bases suffer? Will his offense suffer for going back-to-back pitchers in rounds 3 and 4? Stay tuned.
Find out
for the rest of this mock draft as we continue on here. So after we have your first pick, which is Zach Wheeler, we had Vladimir Guerrero go at 308. Great value there. I'm a little surprised you passed on him, but you did have Olsen already, so I get that. Jose Altuve at 309. Then I took Gunnar Henderson and Luis Robert. I am not too crazy about outfield. Welsh knows I don't like to leave the first few rounds without at least one outfielder. Now I've got 2, so I feel good about that. Mike Trout goes next at 402. Then Kevin Gossman back to Welsh for Pablo Lopez. Adolis Garcia at 405, Randy Arozarena at 406, and then Bubba, you selected Michael Harris at 407. One of Welsh's favorite things.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of him. I know this is not a batting average league. He's a focus of mine there, but still OBP skills, 20-20 bat. Again, anytime you can get Atlanta Braves players on your team, not going to stink. So you add the power speed combo to the already power I got. I'll take Michael Harris all day long.
All right, so Harris, the next selection there. Continuing on, after Michael Harris, Kyle Schwarber, then Ellie De La Cruz. Frank Stampfl, you had 2 picks at the turn at 410 and 501. What did you do?
Yeah, so this is typically how I've started a lot of my drafts this year, 3 hitters and then doubling down on pitchers after that. I just love the pitchers that you can get in rounds really 4 through 7, maybe 4 through 8. And I went with Luis Castillo and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Surprised to see Luis Castillo still there at the end of the 4th round. I think he's one of those top 5 or 6 aces that has done it obviously for years now and has been incredibly consistent with the Seattle Mariners since being traded there. And then I take my upside shot here with Yamamoto, who's made 1 start in the spring, and he made major league hitters look like not major league hitters. They looked completely ridiculous trying to swing at his splitter, and he's looked awesome and obviously has the Dodgers offense backing him. I think the wins will be there, and totally fine taking him as my SP2. And even in a deeper league, I wouldn't hate getting him as my SP1 either. So,
all right. After Yamamoto and Castillo, you got George Kirby, Zach Gallen, and Bubba, you went pitcher. Who did you go?
I went Tyler Glasnow. I'm a big fan of Glasnow. I understand all the injury concerns of Tyler Glasnow, but when healthy, he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. He's got, Strider-esque type numbers last year in the second half. In the 10-team league, there's replacement value. So the idea is not to get him hurt, but if he does, there will be options on the waiver wire to replace him.
Yeah, if he stays healthy, certainly one of the guys who could lead the league in strikeouts, that's for sure. Get a good number on him, too. We'll be talking more about that on Betting Pros in the next weeks ahead. After Tyler Glasnow at 504, Bo Bichette to Johnny Quest at 505, then Manny Machado at 506, Tariq Skubal to the Welsh. So, Welsh, you've just lost your damn mind. You're just going pitcher and pitcher. It is a 10-team league. The supply and demand is a little different, Welsh. What's going on here, buddy?
Yeah, I already said it. The supply is a little bit different, but I have 3 of the absolute best high-end strikeout pitchers. They're like, if I'm going to do it, these are the players that you're going to do it for. So that's kind of been my my approach here. I'm going to go with it real quick because I'm up. I'm going to go with a high OBP guy in Nolan Jones. Not always one of my big targets, but power speed combo. I need a little bit more speed. I do have Otani. I kind of said I had no speed earlier. I do have some, but Nolan Jones, another one of those 15 to 20 with some solid power. And this is going to improve my OBP just a tiny bit because I might take a non-OBP-ish player or two coming up in the near future to fill out some other categories. But like I said, getting elite starting pitcher in a 10 team, I'm not against being specific about those players. And I went with high end, low ERA, high strikeout players. And now I cannot think about it for a bit.
All right, let's recap all the picks. So after Glass now went to KC Bubba, Bo Bichette at 505, Manny Machado at 506, Tariq Skubal at 507 to the Welsh. Then at 508, Logan Webb. Royce Lewis, I was really contemplating, but he went right before me. Jaeger Bombs took a shot right before me. See what I did there? See what I did? And then I went back-to-back pitching there, which is exactly what I love to do most. Welsh knows this. I want to go ahead, stack the hitters the first 4 rounds, and then double up on pitcher if I can, because I feel like that 1A group of starters is really good. I took 2 guys who I think are locks for 200 strikeouts this year, Aaron Nola and Freddie Peralta. So I'm very, very happy with that. Had they not been there, I might have had to pivot to Framber or Max Fried, but I did not have to worry about that. Max Fried goes at 602. Paul Goldschmidt then at 603. Nolan Jones to the Welsh at 604. Framber Valdez eventually off the board at 605. My boyfriend Alex Bregman at 606. KC Bubba, you selected an outfielder from Milwaukee. His name is Christian Yelich. Let's talk about him.
Yeah, I was going to go Bregman, so thanks, Johnny Quest. But Yelich, I like. Again, he's not the 2020 guy anymore, but he's going to contribute everywhere. Lead off for the Brewers. The top half of the Brewers lineup is still very strong. He's got to accept the fact he's now a 2015-ish guy with good OBP skills and might run you into 90-plus runs scored. So I'll take Christian Yelich to keep balancing this team out.
That's life, isn't it, Bubba? Just accepting things.
Accepting the shortfalls of some, yes.
There we go. Adley Rutschman, the first catcher off the board at 608, as he should. Cody Bellinger goes to Hughes Jr. at 609. Frankie Stamps, you're up for 2 picks. One of them's a closer, one of them's a starter. So you're building that rotation out here, Frank. Let's talk about Devin Williams and Logan Gilbert.
Yeah, so not the plan usually to take this many pitchers in a row, but the hitter pool just doesn't look awesome right now. So I'll take the value that's falling right now. Take Devin Williams, who I think is one of the top 3 closers in fantasy right now. It feels like there's a top tier, whether it's with him, Hader, Edwin Diaz, maybe Class A is still in that mix for some people. So I'll take him. The value is there. And then Logan Gilbert as my SP3. Again, just didn't really love any of the hitters available at this turn. Probably will go that route at the next turn. But yeah, Logan Gilbert as my SP3. Take that all day.
Ooh, what was that? Right. What was that, Frankie? The whole some people still like Class A. Why do you hate Class A?
Well, doesn't get as many strikeouts as the other guys. Obviously, weird year last year, led the league in saves, also led the league in blown saves. So I just docked him down a little bit. I think he's like a mini tier below that top 3. I think he's still fine, but I do like those other 3 closers ahead of him.
Okay. He's just fine, Welsh. He's fine. Fine.
Just fine.
Just fine. Everyone's fine. Tristan Casas goes next at 702. Edwin Diaz at 703. Grayson Rodriguez to KC Bubba, one of my favorite young pitchers to draft this year. So, Bubba, let's talk about your expectations for Grayson Rodriguez.
First, thanks, Frankie, for taking Logan Gilbert. We're even. Grayson Rodriguez, I love what we saw in the second half. I love seeing young pitchers go down to the minors, make adjustments, come back, and actually showcase them on the big stage. Grayson Rodriguez's finish to 2023 was amazing. And if he can just carry 80% of that over, I'm expecting more. Big 2024 in store for Grayson Rodriguez.
All right. I know we've got some picks coming up here. Welsh, why don't you recap the last couple of picks while I make mine, and we'll pivot back to your takes on them.
We had Nico Horner after Grayson Rodriguez, Josh Hader, who absolutely was on my short list of who I was going to take, so that made me pivot off. I went with Matt McClain, who, the injury is kind of sidelining his price a little bit, but I still think this is a 2020 plus guy. I don't know if there's going to be really any missed time, so I'll take the value. CJ Abrams, Jazz Chisholm, and then Joey P. You up with both of my favorites, 2 of my favorite picks that you took a little bit early.
I did. Look, I could have taken Cruz here, but I did not. O'Neal Cruz. I decided to go with Xander Bogaerts. Just give me the floor. If Bogarts wasn't on the board anymore, I think that might have been the pivot, but I'm going to go ahead and take Bogarts 2020 player. You saw the second half, nice bounce back there. McLean was the guy that I was looking for, Welsh. So you kind of stole one from me. That's where I was going to go. Yeah, there you go. So I decided to go lock in some more wins here and some good pitching here with Bobby Miller. I couldn't bring myself to draft Blake Snell. Eflin was still on the board. Perez was still on the board. Musgrove or Bobby Miller is where I kept going back and forth between. So some days I'm Bobby Miller, some days I'm Joe Musgrove. Some days I'm a little bit country, sometimes I'm a little bit rock and roll. Emmanuel Clase goes next at 802, and then Spencer Torkelson at 803. Welsh, you're welcome. I let your crews go back to you.
Yep, that's my guy. It's an OBP league. This is not his format, but I just told you I took Nolan Jones to kind of lighten the blow a little bit because I am taking O'Neal Cruz everywhere all year long. Hopefully the OBP maybe can pop a little bit. I don't expect it to. The only negative about doing this in this format is I'm probably now going to have to be a tad bit more mindful of that. But this also might be a situation where it's like, this is going to be my deficiency. I am going for power. I'm catching up in speed. Power comes run and RBI. I'm going heavy pitching. So where am I going to be deficient? It's probably going to be OBP. And hopefully I'm making it up in the other categories.
Well, it's funny because I'm looking at the categories right now on Draft Wizard, which you can do. You can look at the categories, see where you're currently ranked potentially. And right now, Frank is number 1 in runs, home runs, RBI, and steals. So something's got to give here, Frankie. I don't know. You're doing well in this draft. Way too well.
Thank you, Ronald Acuna.
Yeah. Scam takes Blake Snell at 805, then Will Smith. The catcher goes at 806 to Johnny Quest. Bubba, you went closer here. I was contemplating Duran. You ended up taking him from Minnesota. Let's talk about your expectations for him this year.
Yeah, one of the filthiest pitchers in baseball, period. And he should run into his fair share of 25 to 30 plus saves with tons of strikeouts and elite ratios. So I love Johan Duran. If he could be a continual 30 plus save guy, he'd be towards the top of the closing list.
There you go. All right, continuing on here. After Duran, Zach Eflin and Yuri Perez go back-to-back. Frank Stampfl for 2 picks. So balancing out some of the Mets with a Yankee here, you selected Max Muncy and then Gleyber Torres.
Yeah, so Max Muncy, first up, does get a boost in OBP leagues. He's kind of like Kyle Schwarber in that, batting average, it's going to be terrible, but he does walk a lot, and he's going to hit for a lot of power, obviously in the middle of that Dodgers lineup. And if he's hitting in the middle of that lineup with Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Anthony Rizzo ahead of him, I think the counting stats are going to be awesome as well.
All right. I agree, by the way, on Torres. Very bullish on him. You think he comes back to the Yankees here? It seems like the Yankees love to let the free agents walk and then figure it out later.
Yeah, it's tough to say because, he's solid offensively, but like defensively, he's lacking. It depends what he's looking for. He's kind of a weird player at this point in his career. I'll go out and say, yeah, I think he will be back with the Yankees.
I agree. Doval goes after that, then Josh Lowe, Jesus Luzardo to Bubba. So, Bubba, you got another pitcher here. Glasnow, Grayson Rodriguez, and Jesus Luzardo. Not too shabby here. It feels a little like a dynasty rotation.
Yeah, it's a bunch of young pitchers, but it's pitchers that have thrown innings outside of Glasnow, of course. But Luzardo, we got over 180 innings last year. All 3 guys are big strikeout arms. I like focusing on strikeout pitchers. So on a 10-team format, give me all the upside here.
All right, let's go back to Welsh here for his next pick. So Yandy Diaz at 905, then Christian Walker at 906. Welsh, you took Brian Reynolds straight out of my cues. Great selection there. So Walker's gone, Reynolds gone. I'm not happy. Let's talk about Brian Reynolds because I'm sure you're happy about that.
Yeah, I wanted Brian Reynolds. I'll tell you, the pick I wanted was DF Hughes, or what did you call it earlier? Diffuser?
It was so tiny on the screen on the sideboard there. And then I wanted Camilo Doval.
I wanted Camilo Doval like nobody's business because I view him as like the end of that like upper elite closer tier. So now I'm kind of resigned to just kind of coming back to it at not a super expensive cost. And that's fine. So I went with Brian Reynolds, who 2020 option. Again, I feel like I can get stolen bases a little bit later. Maybe his advantage, he's not as much of an OBP advantage as he is like the batting average advantage guy, but I need outfield spots. He fills it out. And Frank kind of said it best earlier. The offense is it's kind of deteriorating a little bit, and it makes me a little bit queasy with my heavy pitching setup.
All right. After Reynolds, William Contreras goes at 908, then Ha-Seong Kim at 909. I broke down and went a closer at 910 with Iglesias, and then I can't believe it, I almost took Musgrove, 20 picks later. He's still there, so I selected him. I'm just not going to let him go anymore. So Nola, Freddie Peralta, Bobby Miller, Joe Musgrove. I like the feeling of that rotation. I've also got Tatis, Jose Ramirez, Gunnar Henderson, Luis Robert. So I like where this is at. I got to get some more offense. That's where I got to go. But corners have unfortunately gotten soaked up here a little bit. So after I went and took Musgrove, Ketel Marte goes next to 10:02. Nolan Arenado at 10:03. Had I not taken Musgrove, he was not there, I would have taken Arenado. And then Welsh, another one of your favorite guys, Cole Reagans, 10:04.
Cole Reagans for 200, Trebek. Suck it.
Pew, pew,
That's what we're
pew,
doing.
pew.
Yeah, Cole Reagans, absolutely. High strikeouts is this is the Scott White playbook. I am going heavy strikeouts in the 10-team league. Cole Reagans fills that role. He's looked phenomenal in the spring. I don't have a closer, and I got 4 pitchers in a 10-man through 10 rounds. But these are the guys that I want to go to war with. And no chance. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't think there was any chance Reagans was coming back to me between Frank and Bubba having 2 picks.
I can't believe that you passed on our new best friend, Justin Steele, fan of Fantasy Pros, does his drafts on Fantasy Pros for football and all the things he does. He uses all the software, and you passed on our guy. And he ended up going 2 picks later. Jordan Romano went in between at 10:05, then Justin Steele, then KC Bubba, Dansby Swanson at 10:07. So walk me through this pick here. Why was Swanson the guy for you?
Shortstop, to me, was drying up a bit here. We still have a 20-plus home run guy. Down season in his first year in Wrigley Field. I'll take a potential bounce back. He doesn't just have a 0 in steals either, and he has really strong OBP skills. So I'll take Dansby Swanson at a depleting shortstop position.
Joe Ryan goes next at 10:08. Excellent value for Sir Subjects there. JT Realmuto at 10:09. Frank Stampfl, 2 picks. You went outfield with both. So sell me on Seiya Suzuki and Evan Carter.
Frank
destroyed my queue. Destroyed my damn queue.
Frank has taken a lot of my guys, and I'm not happy about
Heavy
this.
OBP for Frank.
I don't know. I'm just not an Evan Carter guy, so this one didn't upset me at all. But maybe I'm wrong. Let's talk about it, Frank.
Yeah. So Seiya Suzuki last year, kind of an up and down year, some inconsistencies. It was given a mental break in August, and then over the final 2 months was awesome. I think he has all the tools, great plate discipline. Again, kind of like a Gleyber Torres, not going to hurt you anywhere. 25 homers, 10-ish steals. So I love Seiya Suzuki as a breakout this year. Evan Carter is someone I actually think gets a boost in this format because he has a great eye at the plate. Phenomenal. Does not chase pitches out of the strike zone. He's going to get on base. I think modest power. He probably grows into that over the next couple of years, 15-ish home runs, but can he give 20, 25 steals? That's kind of what I was looking for at this point. And so, I think Evan Carter plays very well in this format.
Evan Carter goes at 11:01 to start the 11th round, then Jordan Walker at 11:02, Tanner Bybee at 11:03. Bubba, you went closer. Who just selected 11:04?
Well, I wanted to go starting pitcher, but all my starting pitchers keep getting taken, like Justin Steele and Tanner Bybee. So we went Paul Sewald here to give me a second closer. As there's still a lot of closers in a 10-team format, but the closers I kind of trust more than others are depleting. It was between Sewald and Andres Munoz. Many might have preferred Munoz. I just like Sewald on I think a better D-backs team. Mariners will be good, but give me Sewald.
I like the Mariners this year. They're one big bat away at the trade deadline. I'm telling you, I like that team a lot.
Does Jerry like to trade? I'm not sure.
Maybe. George Springer at 11:05 to Johnny Quest, then Dylan Cease at 11:06. Welsh, you took Bryson Stott at 11:07. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I'm not leaning into the heavy OBP picks. I'm trying, but Frank is over here being an OBP hog. So I'm playing this pivot. Like Bryson Stott is, I think, Joe, from an RPV standpoint, and an above average middle infielder. He's not my second baseman. He's my middle infield. I also have an injured Matt McLean, so I'm kind of, covering myself there. But I do have multiple guys. I'm not going to bode well on the OBP front, but this is more stolen bases, more runs that I think work well. But I'm going to have to keep leaning into this. And I don't have a closer yet. And that's what I need to probably start paying attention to, as well as they keep stealing. You guys are stealing all the good guys. So like it if you don't
that's
stop.
the thing. It's funny. Like for those people, you play the 15-team leagues. Obviously, it's a deeper board. Things look different. But if you only have 10, people to play the league with, just go a little bit deeper. Make sure you're using the corner spots. Make sure you're using the more outfielders, more utility spots, and you'll still get pretty deep into what's going on. All right, continuing on. Let's go after Bryson Stott, Jorge Soler at 11:08. I would love to have picked him up, but that was not meant to be. And then Josh Young, 11:09. I took Spencer Steer at 11:10. And now I've got another selection to make. So I'm not exactly sure which way I want to go here. The suggestions from Draft Wizard tell me, take another closer, Joe, take another closer. But I'm a little worried about the offense here. So instead, I'm going to go ahead and take Ian Happ here. He's the top lift according to the Wizard. So I'm going to go ahead and do that instead. I also like the pick predictor too, because it tells me exactly the percentage of guys who would make it back to me. Feeling they're all going to fly in this next round. We'll see what happens. Jaeger's up next at 12:02 to make another selection here. We'll see what they do. Welsh, what are you trying to get here in round 12?
Well, I mean, kind of blowing up my spot there, buddy. Talking about those closers.
I blew up your spot?
Well, no, because like you might not be wrong about that.
Well, there's one. There's Munoz.
That might answer my question then, because I'm trying to see. In 10-man, we have way more closers to choose from.
Right.
My advantage is at starter. I've lost the advantage of getting the high-end closer. So why do I want to like follow a run too aggressively? But I think what I do need to do is I need to pick up 2 of them, and 2 straight closers just went, which is giving me my answers of where I need to go here, because I'm going to put myself in a bad spot. So I am going to lock up 1, and they might not like it, but I'm going to go with Evan Phillips over Bednar. Bednar is the top closer on the board, but I'm going to get the closer on probably the best team in baseball, and hopefully get another one if these super nice guys we're drafting with don't ruin all the plans.
Well, I can tell you right now, I'm going to start going off the board, I feel like, and I'm sure the Wizard's going to yell at me. That's what it does. So Munoz goes, Diaz goes, Phillips goes in a row. There's your closer run, as predicted. Andres Jimenez goes next at 12:05. Then Cedric Mullins, possible bounce back. Frank, you think Mullins can bounce back after a down season in 23?
I do think he can bounce back. He was playing through a groin injury last year. Now, at the time of recording this, he left Monday with hamstring tightness, so we'll have to monitor that. But yeah, I do think he was playing hurt for a lot of last year, and I think there's a pretty good chance he bounces back to maybe not the player, all the way back to the player we've seen before, but 15 homers, 30 steals, batting average that doesn't hurt you. I think that's definitely doable for Cedric Mullins.
He's got to be careful, though. I think the margin for error is very thin with how deep that farm system is. They can replace you right away in the outfield there over Baltimore. Chris Sale goes next to Bubba at 12:07. So Sale, a little bit of veteran leadership for this young rotation of yours, Bubba?
Pushing him up, Bubba.
All the strikeouts in the world, everyone's pushing him up. The draft leaders hasn't caught on yet. So yeah, give me all the Chris Sale in the world here and have some fun with this one.
I'm so annoyed. Behind the scenes, I had this realization. I went, I know who I'm taking. I've got it. I started to cue him up. I'm like, where is he? Frank. Wyatt Langford, the talk of the town. The new min, 47 in NFBC, just gets him at 120. Bubba, I apologize, but Frank is very, very rude. Very
to be fair, if you get mad right there, you've had 12 rounds to take him.
I know.
Oh, there we go. Burn. Hey, do you like free stuff? If you want a chance to win a signed Jazz Chisholm Miami Marlins jersey, courtesy of bettingpros.com, your place to start betting smarter, not harder. All you need to do is subscribe to Fantasy Pros MLB YouTube channel right now, comment below in this video, and that's it. That jersey can be yours. We'll be announcing the winner of the Jazz Chisholm jersey right here on the channel, so make sure you turn on those notifications so you can be alerted when new episodes drop, and you can claim your prize. So after Sale, Nick Castellanos goes, David Bednar, then Wyatt Langford at 12:10 to Frank, and Bailey Ober straight out of my queue and on to your roster. So Ober, I'm very high on. Again, Minnesota, Seattle, I'm looking at those two teams, the depth of those rotations, and I think those two teams are going to be spectacular this year. Let's talk about Wyatt Langford. Now, I like Langford more than Evan Carter. You've done this twice now, where you've taken Carter and Langford. You've also got on the same roster, the two Mets, Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor. Do you feel ever strange or awkward when you have like a couple players on one team?
Not necessarily. Like, I probably don't want more than 2 players in the same lineup, unless, of course, it's like the Braves or the Dodgers. Then it doesn't matter.
That's okay.
Just
Braves,
get all
Dodgers,
those players because they're awesome. But, look, I think the Rangers are going to be pretty awesome too. Their offense was great last year. They won the World Series. Now they're adding Wyatt Langford to their team. So, I'm totally fine having multiple Rangers in my lineup. The Mets might be another story. But look, if there's two Mets to have, it is Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor. With these picks, I just went with the hype guys in spring. Wyatt Langford, 3 home runs over the weekend. Looks like more increasingly likely he's going to be on the Rangers opening day roster. Bailey Ober, velocity was up over the weekend. He's added a new pitch to his mix as well. He's throwing a cutter. So all he's done is pitch well in his career, and now the velocity is up. So yeah, I'm all the way in on Bailey Ober.
All the way in. Let's keep going here. After Ober goes Sonny Gray, Pete Fairbanks, and then Rhys Hoskins to Bubba. Now, Hoskins hasn't played in a while. How do you think that's going to affect him here early in the season?
I'm not overly concerned with it. The guy could still take a walk with the best of them. One of the better OBP players in the game, and he fell quite a bit to me because he didn't play last season, but the guy is as consistent as they come when he's healthy, so I'll take my chances in Milwaukee. Pretty good, at least top-heavy Milwaukee lineup.
Okay, after Hoskins goes, Anthony Volpe goes next, who I think is going to break out this year. Hunter Green goes to Scam, and then at 13:07, Riley Green, back-to-back greens here. Welsh, how do you feel about the selection of Riley Green?
Green. Cash rules everything around me. Green, get the money. $1. That's I'm all about Riley Green. Wow. He's my consolation prize.
The show just got super white just now.
Really, yo.
Wow.
Man, you guys are a rough crowd. I made that like a million times. That was a pretty good one. So.
I thought it was great, Welsh.
Thank you, Frank. Jeez. You are a dirtbag though, Joe. So let's hear about I have a pick here. Why don't you talk about how you purposely are trying to ruin my draft?
Well, I mean, you took so many pitchers. You had your chance. I mean, already. The rotation's full, I feel like. So Clay Holmes goes after Riley Green. Ryan Helsley goes next. And then I took at the turn Michael King, because I'm down with the King. There's another rap reference for you. Marcell Ozuna at 14:01. Look, looking for power here. Ozuna helps that. I'm looking for Michael King, who I think has the chance to be the best pitcher in this Padres rotation. Yeah, I said it. I think it's very possible. And now I've got Nola, Peralta, Bobby Miller, Musgrove, and Michael King. I love this pitching staff. I need some more help on offense, but I still think it's a respectable one. I'm going to see if I can pull out some rabbits from the hats here later in the draft. And unfortunately, one of those I see just went off the board in Jackson Chourio, but that's a little frustrating. Teoscar Hernandez goes next at 14:02, then Anthony Santander at 14:03. Welsh, you took Tanner Scott at 14:04, another closer for you. Why didn't you take Chourio when he was on the board?
I mean, I'm hyper focused on filling out the closers. I needed 2 of them. Probably should have. I'm going to be honest with you. In this format, like Wyatt Langford is a step above the rest. I don't know if you're going to see.
He wasn't available.
I know, but that was the point of the rookie. So
you waited too long on him.
That's the one that I know. I absolutely failed on that. I don't know if I need to be as hyper aggressive in this format or wanting to be with Chourio over the needs. Probably should have. I do have 3 outfielders already, so I think that's why I pushed back on it. If he fell, but he didn't. So nothing good happens. Just bad drafts.
If he dies, he dies. If he falls, he falls. All right, so Tanner Scott, Jackson Chourio at 14:05 to Scam. Johnny Quest selects Nathaniel Lowe at 14:06. Lane Thomas to you, Bubba, 14:07. Feels like a value there, a guy that was free last year, and I feel like still people are not believing in him, but I think in the 14th round, I think it's a steal.
That's pretty much what it is. Like, I'm not all in on Lane Thomas this year. I think we saw the ceiling potentially last year, but I think there's still a very good floor with Lane Thomas. And to get him in the 14th round, I'll take that to fill out my 4 outfielders.
Nolan Gorman goes next at 14:08, then Zach Geloff at 14:09. Frank, you had 2 picks here, Wilson Contreras, then Craig Kimbrell to start off the 15th round. So let's discuss it. Kimbrell, now the closer in Baltimore, and Contreras coming off an up and down year at times for St. Louis. What do you think about these 2 selections here? How do you feel?
Yeah, I love Wilson Contreras this year. He still hits the ball as hard as anyone. Bold prediction, Wilson Contreras outperforms his brother, William Contreras, this season. And I just love the way that he finished the year in the second half with the Cardinals. Power metrics are still there, 20-plus home runs, handful of steals. Totally fine getting him as my first catcher. And then Craig Kimbrell, the closer for one of the better teams in the American League. He actually sneakily had a good year with the Phillies last year. I know that didn't really show up in the postseason, but yeah, he's still going to get it done. I'd expect something like 25 plus saves from Craig Kimbrell.
Okay, continuing on the board here, we have got Vinny Pasquantino, my people, going off the board at 1502. Sir Subjects next at Willie Adams, and then Bubba, you took Carlos Rodon. All right, so this is risk reward time. You have all the young kids. You got Grayson Rodriguez, Lazardo, Glasnow, and then you got some risk here with Sale and Rodon. Is that too much risk for a rotation or just right?
I usually don't take any risk at all, so I'm trying something new here. Not to mention a 10-team, not to mention a 10-team league. I'm just saying if these guys do come out well, these are all just amazing picks. It could be, like you said, high risk, high reward. I have an article on that coming out with pitchers here next week, so keep an eye on that. But yeah, these two will be in that article to be sure.
Well, I mean, a 10-team league, Bubba, you also have the ability to.
Yeah, drop.
The replacement value is a little bit kinder. We're still doing the 9 pitchers, but still, it's a little bit better.
I'm looking at the rest of the starting pitchers, and there's so many. I still like so many. So
How
I'll take
you
my
like
chances.
to create your rotations typically, Bubba? I know you're trying something new here, but what's the normal?
I usually do 12 or 15 teamers. I want guys that can strike guys out. Obviously, I try to avoid those guys that have limited K upside, and I'm usually safer, very safe. I'll take an ace in the first 5 picks. Usually have 2, maybe 3 pitchers in the top 10 picks for me, and then I'll take a lot of. There's like 3 real big pockets of starting pitchers this year that you can pick from in my mind.
All right, Johnny Quest puts Alzolay in his pocket. Mitch Keller next at Scam at 1506. Then Jake Berger to the Welsh. So Welsh, you've got your Berger here at 1507. How does that make you feel?
I'm pretty good with the Burger. Big, huge, hard hit numbers. Not the biggest OBP guy, but moving over to Miami, he had a 350 OBP, which would be beyond respectable if he can kind of maintain that. His hard hit metrics through the freaking roof. So if we get 85 to, I mean, if we get that version of the Miami one, he's going to hit 40 homers this year, and he's going to help carry some OBP. Projections may not love him. I'm going to just throw that out there right now. I'm up, and I can tell you, I'm going to actually pair him with someone that I think is falling. He is a better batting average player to what he provides back in OBP, but he scored a ton of runs. He's a bunch of RBIs. I'm going to go with Josh Naylor. Josh Naylor for my corner infield spot. Probably a better like 5x5 category player, but for whatever reason, he just fell past the 150s here, and I get to put him at the corner infield spot. So that makes me very excited.
So after you took Berger, Isaac Paredes goes at 1508, then Kenley Jansen at 1509. I took Noelvi Marte at 1510, a player that I'm very high on. I think he's absolutely tremendous. And look, man, talk about hitting the ground running last year. I mean, exactly what he's doing in the minor leagues. He carried right over. Of course, there'll be adjustments. He's a young player. Brendan Nimmo, who I think, again, solid all-around player, OBP league, also 1601, historically a good on-base percentage. Yainer Diaz, nice selection at 1602 by Jaeger Bombs. Jaeger's having a good draft here. Jordan Montgomery at 1603, still homeless. Still no home for Jordan Montgomery or Blake Snell. Josh Naylor to the Welsh. Then Scam took Chris Bassett. Kodai Senga at 1606. Welsh, is that about the time to take the risk on Kodai Senga, in your opinion?
Nope. Not with the pitchers that are on the board. Not remotely close. I mean, not to say players, but we can all see the players. But Justin Verlander is a better risk, and the injury is not even remotely the same. Bieber's out there, Kelly. It's not the time.
I like the guy that Bubba took right after, Shoto Imanaga. So absolutely. Bubba, to me, that's a much better selection at this current time over Senga, which is still unknown how he bounces back, how long he's going to be out. It could be a month. It could be an entire season. Imanaga, at least you have a pretty good path so far that he's healthy, and the league hasn't seen him yet.
League hasn't seen him. The early looks like we've seen in the spring look great, and he's a guy that we know can go deep into games. We know how good he is. How good is he in the MLB? We don't know, but I'll take those chances as like my SP 5 or 6 on this roster all day long.
All right. After Imanaga, Lars Nootbaar, he helps a little bit in the OBP at 1608. Chas McCormick at 1609. Then Estrada and Yu Darvish to Frank Stampfl. Now, Estrada, I think you know the floor you're getting there. Darvish is that wild card. So, age 37 season, Frank, does he have one more bounce back in him?
I think he does. He's looked all right so far this spring. I know he had some bone spurs in his elbow last year. Actually did not get those fixed surgically, but so far so good. Velocity has looked all right. Probably not going to give you the full amount of starts that you're looking for throughout the season. He'll miss a little bit of time. But yeah, I think to get him this late, totally fine for a bounce back opportunity. For those watching, you saw I made a face. There was a reaction. When Bubba took Imanaga, that absolutely crushed my soul. I wasn't. That pick sucked. Actually, it was a great pick, but I hated it. And Tyro Estrada just to grab a few steals from my middle infield spot.
One of my favorite things to do
not to mention, I love Tyro Estrada, as everybody knows. So thank you, Frank.
Well, and you just took my guy, James Outman. So thanks, Bubba. One of my favorite things to do in this draft is as soon as I pick, quickly go over and look at the screen to see if I see Frank doing this. Like after I took Burger, I saw that and I was like, confirmation. That's all we wanted. That's all. I want like a pain face or like a, okay. And I got confirmation. So
there you go. Confirmation is given. All right. Isturi Ruiz goes at 1702. Shane Bieber at 1703. James Outman to Bubba. So Bubba, let's talk about Outman here, a guy who started red hot last year and then obviously had to make some adjustments there. The league certainly made adjustments to him. Are you confident that Outman can be more consistent in 2024?
He finished well too. Wasn't as big as the start to the front, but he finished well. I do, and it's just a matter: will the Dodgers play him enough? I think they will, with the layout they have right now. Dude's got 20 plus home run, 15-20 steal upside, and amazing OBP skills. Amazing OBP skills for a young ball player. So I love James Outman. It's just a matter of playing time, which I hope the Dodgers give him.
All right. After you took Outman, Merle Kelly, our boy Merle, goes next. Then Jaron Duran at 1706. Welsh, speaking of Verlander, ends up on your roster at 1707. Then Christopher Morel at 1708. Walker Buehler at 1709. I took Edouard Julien at 1710, a guy historically, if you look at the minor leagues, a very high OBP guy. So I'm looking for him to make some more strides as he did in the second half of last season after getting sent back down. I think that's a great opportunity for him. I think he's a sleeper in OBP leagues. Then Eduardo Rodriguez, who was terrific last season. Love the signing for the Diamondbacks. So another starting pitcher for me. Then after that, Gavin Williams at 1802. Welsh, you could talk about your Verlander pick, and then you're on the clock in 2 picks right now for the next one.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, I have so much strikeout. I have so many strikeouts in there. I feel like I can take on the hit a little bit if there's a tiny bit of missed time. I just think there's just massive upside there with Verlander. I'm kind of going through a couple pops here. Oh man, I might do something that's going to be wild.
I was going to predict your next pick. I'll let you know if I'm right or not.
All right, this is going to surprise a lot.
Okay, maybe it won't be so. The pick is in, folks. The pick is in. Yeah, it's so surprising I might leave the show. I don't even know who you are anymore, Welsh. This is very upsetting. It's Luis Arise after TJ Friedel off the board. I thought you were going to go. League. I thought it was Brandon Pfaadt for sure. I thought Pfaadt was the guy here for you without a doubt. I'm just surprised.
You don't have to shush. We all love Brandon Pfaadt.
We all know that Brandon Pfaadt. Is that like a big thing here? Geez, all right. It's just a bad spot. There was another player. I mean, if I'm being honest with you, like Masataka Yoshida might have been a little bit of a better play. The floor to Arise just in OBP just exists because the batting average is so freaking high and I can play runs up. It's not like this phenomenal pick, but I've also played pretty low on the batting average / OBP front. Funny enough, I will just tell you though, as much as I think I've been playing it below, if you check categories on FantasyPros on where we're at, I'm now third. I'm third in OBP. I'm lagging in a couple other spots, but I've bumped that back up. But it is a little empty. It's a little scary with this high power trying to build speed to take a rise. But I don't know, we're in the 170, 180 range. I felt like I could maybe stomach it.
All right. Look, I think you're talking yourself into it, and I think you're going to hate yourself at the end. That's what I think.
That's my cycle.
Well, who has a higher OBP in 2024, Jung Hoo Lee or Luis Arise?
Probably Jung Hoo Lee, yeah.
Because he went right after, and I think that's another.
I had the same amount of homers and stolen bases though too. So
it's very possible. Very similar style players there. A lot of contact. Jose Barrios at 1806. Bubba, you took Matt Chapman. We'll get to your picks in a second. He's no longer a free agent, signing with the San Francisco Giants. Ryan McMahon goes at 1808. Then Masataka Yoshida at 1809. Frank, you took Christian Encarnacion Strand and Brian. Woo! 2 excellent picks here. So CES, a guy who was just crushing minor league pitching last year. Brian Wu, a guy who, a bit of a project for the Mariners that they've really gotten a lot out of so far. Good strikeout numbers. Again, spent time in the minor leagues last year. But what do you think about Wu and CES, these 2 picks here?
Yeah, this is another hype guy turn. I do wonder if maybe I have too many young guys on my team between Evan Carter, Wyatt Langford, and Encarnacion Strand, but I do think that they are all impact bats. Encarnacion Strand, lower OBP guy, but I do think that he can hit 25 plus home runs, has to find his way into the lineup, but I do think that'll happen. And yeah, Brian Wu, I agree. I think he's kind of an experiment. He's a pitcher I really like taking in the late rounds. Had a higher swinging strike rate on his fastball last year than Spencer Strider did. Has to figure out a way to get lefties out, but he's on an organization that does a great job developing pitching, and so I do have faith the Mariners will figure that out.
All right. Frank, how do you feel about the construction so far of this roster as you're kind of stepping back now, looking at the pieces you need? Are you still just going best player available because just principle of draft, or are you trying to figure out some needs?
No, I think it's pretty balanced right now. I like the way that it's turned out. I got some higher OBP guys to kind of balance some of the lower ones. I've got upside on this team as well. Having Ronald Acuna doesn't hurt, of course.
Does not hurt.
The starting pitchers, I mean, this is what I've typically done in drafts. I try to get 3 of my top 30 ranked, and then I kind of wait a little bit, and then I jump back in with some of these sleeper/breakout types that I like this year. So far, so good. I have 2 closers. Probably going to look to pick up another one here soon. But yeah, I like the way it's turned out so far.
All right. Welsh, how do you feel about your roster construction so far as you're kind of looking back right now?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm actually surprised at the ranking I'm getting in OBP because I just don't think I'm there on the OBP front. But I'm happy with the mixture. I wanted to go heavy power, Matt Olson, Shohei Ohtani. I've got that. I would throw like Berger and O'Neal Cruz in there. I've got stolen bases and McLean and Cruz, Bryson Stott, Nolan Jones. I actually feel pretty solid. I love my pitching staff. I think I'm surprised I'm not projected higher in strikeouts. I think I'm going to blow past that. And I got those middle end closers in here. This is about how I would like to attack it. You'd like a couple other things to go your way.
All right.
Which they haven't, but.
Bubba, let's well, it is difficult because when you do go pitching so heavy so early, you know, the hitter board does dry up. Whereas like we're looking now at some of these pitchers, Brendan Pfaadt, you know, just went off the board. We'll talk about that in a second. Hunter Brown, Pavetta, Eovaldi. There's still a lot of names out there you feel pretty good about the upside of. Frank Stampfl took Brian Wu to start the 19th round. Then Bryce Miller went 1902, Jackson Holiday at 1903. That seems like a good value there, especially if he breaks camp with the team. Bubba, Robert Suarez at 1904. You're up for another pick. Let's talk about your pick here, which is Taylor Ward in the 20th round. So how do you feel about these 2 selections?
Suarez, some people might think it's crazy. It's my 3rd closer, but I think in the shallower the format, the more saves you're going to need situation. I think Robert Suarez is the best pitcher to close in San Diego. I know they picked up 2 great options from overseas, but give me Robert Suarez there. Then Taylor Ward, I'm a huge fan of. He's falling in drafts because he got hit in the face by Alek Manoah. The only thing that Alek Manoah actually hit square last year, besides the barrel of a bat, was Taylor Ward's face. He's just, it's a confidence thing for Ward. He's confident. He looks good in the spring. This guy has been going 50 to 100 picks earlier in previous drafts. I'm a huge Taylor Ward fan this year, especially at his price tag.
Let's finish out the 19th round. Hunter Brown in 1905, Pavetta in 1906. Then Welsh, you rode the lightning, and he came back to you. Brandon Pfaadt at 1907, Sean Murphy at 1908, Nate Eovaldi at 1909, then Jorge Polanco and Ryan Pepio to me at the end of the 19th, beginning of the 20th. Byron Buxton to the Jaeger Bombs, then Carlos Correa at 2003, and then you took Alex Lang, so you went starter and reliever here, Welsh. Let's talk about these 2 selections here.
Yeah, both Bubba and Frank have kind of alluded to the closing situation in a 10-man format. It's like, you know, Frank wanted to get one soon. Bubba's talking about taking, I think you took your 3rd because it is going to be, it becomes this arms race situation with closers. So that's exactly what I did. And I took Alex Lang. I was deciding between Lang and Jose Leclerc. They're like Leclerc's job is on a little bit dicier ground. So I was just trying to go with more lockdown saves. That's what we wanted to do. I want to lock down as many saves as I possibly can without getting an elite option like some of these other guys. So now I've got 3, and I'm probably going to fill out the bench at least with 2 more starting pitching spots. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, continuing on here after Lang, Cal Raleigh, Jose Alvarado, Taylor Ward we just talked about, to Bubba, then Christian Javier at 2008, Braxton Garrett at 2009, Eloy Jimenez at 2010, and Carlos Estevez at 2101. Frank, it seems like an incredible, great shot in the dark here for Eloy Jimenez, because this is a player just barely removed from being one of, you know, the top targets on people's boards, and you just picked him up in the 20th round. How does that feel?
It feels amazing. I have I've written up Eloy Jimenez the past couple of years as being undervalued, just waiting for it to happen. And look, everyone has just decided that they're collectively out on Eloy Jimenez, and now he's going outside the top 200 picks in ADP. I still think there's a lot of talent there. He's got to stay on the field. I understand that, but there's not as much risk when you're getting him as late as he's going right now. So if everything comes together, I do think he can hit 25 plus home runs. The White Sox obviously not great there for counting stats, but I absolutely love the value on Eloy Jimenez this season.
All right, let's continue on here. After Jimenez and Estevez, Aaron Savali. We'll see if he's the next Tampa Bay Ray reclamation project. Then Heimer Candelario at 2103. Logan O'Hoppe, one of the favorite guys of Frank Stampfl from last year, goes to KC Bubba. Let's talk about him.
Yeah, I'm Team Logan this year. I've talked about him anywhere that anybody will listen to me talk about him. I love everything about O'Hoppe. We talked about, Berger in the second half with the Marlins and so many other players. O'Hoppe wasn't even really supposed to come back last year after his injury. Struggled for like the first 2 to 3 weeks. The month of September, he crushed baseballs. Absolutely looked amazing. Love him coming into the season. And they said they want to play him like 125, 135 games behind the plate, and there's no reason he shouldn't DH another 10 plus. So I love Logan O'Hoppe this year.
All right, so O'Hoppe off the board. Continuing on here, after O'Hoppe, Lucas Giolito, another reclamation project. Trevor Story, another Boston reclamation project. That's a theme there in Boston this year. JD Martinez, free agent, goes to the Welsh, signed by the Welsh. We'll get to that in a second. Dalton Varsho at 2108. Shane Baz at 2109. Then I took Michael Garcia for some extra stolen bases here, a little bit of depth. He is crushing life right now in spring training. We'll see how that goes. He's got to move up in the order, though. He's projected to hit 9th right now on FanGraphs, so we want that to move up. And don't forget, when you're looking for more, news and insights and strategies, as Bubba was talking about some of the things that he's writing up, Welsh is writing stuff up, I'm writing stuff up too, over on FantasyPros.com, but also the draft kit is available on Fantasy Pros. It's free. It's fantastic. Go over to FantasyPros.com. You'll see it right on the front page there, the draft kit for MLB. Another closer for me, Jose Leclerc, because I need a closer. I've only got 2 now. Tristan McKenzie goes next. Then Kerry Carpenter at 2203. Sal Perez, catcher off the board to the Welsh. So old farts here. JD Martinez, Sal Perez. Well, maybe Sal's not that old now. I'm maybe being a little tough. But Welsh, how do you feel about these 2 picks?
JD Martinez is a exponentially better OBP play than what I'm doing here. The league is still interested in him. He's still a 25 homer guy. He's going to help me in OBP. Sal will not, but Sal, not really sure it's arguable, is the best offensive catcher available, and in an average format would have gone exponentially higher. He just doesn't walk. And I have a clear advantage apparently to the system on OBP, but I'm gonna ride into this of like 25 plus homers, 80 plus RBI. I'm gonna take the offensive output from Sal sans the OBP here, because we're in the territory like of Jonah Heim, and I mean, no offense, like Logan O'Hoppe just went above Sal Perez. Like, I like Logan O'Hoppe, but Sal Perez in a non-OBP league would without question gone ahead. This is his disadvantage. Would you take O'Hoppe over Sal Perez in any format, Bubs?
I have O'Hoppe ranked 5th or 6th this year. Yes, I like him
wow.
much. Yeah.
Wow.
I wasn't joking. I love Logan O'Hoppe this year.
You love
What's
Lamp.
not to love? I love Lamp too. Okay, Brian Hayes at 2205, Charlie Morton at 2206, Bubba, you took Justin Turner at 2207, then Tyler O'Neill at 2208, Robert Stevenson at 2209, then Frank at the turn of 22 to 23, Jared Kelenic, Christopher Sanchez. Kelenic, interesting selection here. Frank, let's highlight him because the Braves made the acquisition. Is this a guy that's ever going to figure it out for a long period of time?
I think his chances of figuring it out are much better on the Atlanta Braves, a team that has done a great job developing their hitters throughout the years. Ronald Acuna, obviously one of the best hitters in the game, but they've also developed guys like Ozzie Albies throughout the year. So if it's going to happen, I think it would happen with the Atlanta Braves. They've already announced he's going to play every day against righties, against lefties. I love that fact for a player who, throughout his career, he's kind of always had to look over his shoulder. Am I going to play today? Am I going to be in the lineup? Doesn't have to worry. Set it and forget it. He's in the lineup, and he's in one of the best lineups in baseball. So I do like getting Kelenic this late. And then Christopher Sanchez is a late round upside starting pitcher that I've been grabbing everywhere. Great ground ball rate. Really improved the control last year. So big fan of Christopher Sanchez as well.
Okay, so let's talk about your picks here, Bubba. Taj Bradley, then Josh Bell, then you took Stephen Kwan. Some good value there late, especially in terms of stolen base potential. 20 steal guy there, scored 90 runs last year. So Kwan and Turner, let's talk about those 2 picks. How do you feel about them?
Turner needed a middle infielder, and the dude is, you want to spell OBP, it should be somewhere in Justin Turner. It's not, but I'm just saying it should be. He'll get on a ton, and he should play almost every day for Toronto. So I love that. 20-plus home runs there as well. And then Stephen Kwan, he hit on it, 20 stolen base upside. I need steals. That's my biggest deficiency. So, and another great OBP guy leading off in Cleveland. So give me Stephen Kwan.
I am so mad at Welsh right now. I can't even tell you. Giancarlo Stanton, Chris Bryant, Junior Caminero to the Welsh at 2307. I was all ready to go, lined up. I knew it. He was going to be there. And then he wasn't. Kenta Maeda, then Brandon Drury. I took Alec Boehm, who lasted, I think, far too long at 20. I'm not the biggest fan, but still 23rd round, just price enforcing. Francisco Alvarez at 2401. Yeah, he's probably going to hurt the OBP a bit, but I think it's going to be better than it was last year. So any improvement between him and Moreno, I'm just going to take the power. Always give me the power. Marcus Stroman goes next at 2402. Gavin Lux at 2403. So Welsh, you jerk. Talk about Caminero in your next pick.
Hey, man, cheapest of all of the big core 4 rookies, or core 5, I guess, if you count Evan Carter into that. Caminero is not guaranteed. He's the least guaranteed. If anything, he might not be. He'd be the one guy that doesn't get the opening day nod, but it's not going to be too far after. Huge power. Some sites, multiple qualifications, actually a decent OBP play as well. As a bench bat, I can sit on him for just a couple weeks, maybe. It's a no-brainer pick. Everyone should do something like that if one of those rookies is still available. When you're at your bench bats, guys like Junior Caminero, at the time, a month ago, Jackson Holidays were available. Those are the things you put on your bench. Those are the players you put on your bench.
100%. Love the pick there. So I'll try to stuff my rage deep down. After you took Tommy Edman, then Yuki Matsui goes, Jacob deGrom at 2406. Welsh, are you going to draft any shares of deGrom this year, just out of curiosity late?
No.
Not worth it.
I'm in draft and hold. I will tell you, I have taken Jeffrey Springs, because Jeffrey Springs is going to be coming back midway through the year, but I've little interest in the guys that might come back in July or August, unless you're in like a draft and hold format, or you got lots of IL spots that you can just drop them on. deGrom might come back for a month, but I don't know. What did he? You've been on this whole like closer thing. I think he could pitch in like a multi-inning relief type of role if he comes back to save him for the playoffs. So I don't think he helps your fantasy team in the regular season.
No, I said it last year. I said, look, I mean, if he can't be a starter anymore, make him the most elite closer. You can control his innings, just let him go out there and be filthy. Kyle Harrison, also filthy at 2407. You took him there, Bubba, and then your next pick was Ezequiel Tovar, young shortstop from Colorado. So Tovar, I think, is a really cagey pickup. 2 young players here, Harrison and Tovar. How do they enter into your roster here, and how do you think that they might be able to push forward here?
Speculating bench bats, hoping for more. Harrison, tons of strikeout upside, tons of just talent appeals, just limiting the walk, which he did once he came to the bigs compared to his minor league numbers. So taking another step there, give us 120, 130 innings, very doable. Tovar, I think, is a 2020 guy. I think he's still super, super young. OBP skills were rough last year. It was his first year, went 15-11. There's a lot more in that kid's talent. So 2 speculating picks for my bench.
Okay, continuing on here after Tovar and Harrison, after Harrison, really, Sawinski, Crawford, then Frank, your 2 next picks were Bayo, and Anthony Rizzo.
Yeah, just continuing on with the upside starting pitchers. Bayo working on his slider this offseason with Pedro Martinez, and I think that's kind of the missing piece. He obviously has an awesome changeup, and he throws hard, so hopefully we can get more out of that slider from Brian Bayo. And then Anthony Rizzo, solid OBP, going to hit in the middle of that Yankee lineup again, behind Judge and behind Juan Soto. Last year, the concussion derailed his season, but before that, he was awesome. So if he's healthy, which so far so good, he's looked good here in spring, I think Anthony Rizzo is a steal where he's going.
All right, so Bayo and Rizzo go next. After that, Kyle Bradish, Nestor Cortez, Tovar, Mason Miller, Jeremy Pena, Reed Detmers, to you, Welsh, another starting pitcher, Will Smith, Kansas City reliever, then Nick Lodolo, Ryan Mountcastle to me, and Cutter Crawford, my last pick, Severino next to Jaegerbaum. So Welsh, what are you looking to do here with your last selection?
I'm gonna go, well, let me see if he's still in queue here. I'm gonna go with a pitcher, and I think I'm gonna go Emmett Sheehan. kind of playing that upside 6-man rotation possibilities. And with the Dodgers, doesn't give him the upside of the big innings, but it gives him the potential for lots of wins, and it gives him opportunity, which is kind of a bigger thing because we're not seeing any Kershaw anytime soon. So Emmett Sheehan for my final pick, 2 hitters and 2 pitchers on my bench.
Okay. Last couple picks here. Bubba, what are you looking for with his last pick?
I was going to go with Cutter Crawford, but some person took that.
Some handsome
earlier.
bald fellow took him at 26-01.
So
yeah.
I'm going to go with Griffin Canning, another upside pitcher here. Finished the season very, very strong in Anaheim. See what he can do here to start 2024.
All the Anaheim pitchers, all the Angels pitchers go in like the 19th round. We're like, now they're good. Now they're Reed Detmers.
Now they're affordable. Everyone, the $1 million man's
25th round, 26th round. I think that makes a lot of sense. Kikuchi goes after that. So basically the last round, Crawford, Severino, Abbott, Sheehan, Gore, India, Canning, Kikuchi, Scherzer, and Stampfl. Your last pick was?
Going to stay on brand here with the prospects and take Paul Skeens, one of the top, arguably the top pitching prospect in all of baseball. I don't know when we're going to see him. Welsh could talk more to that, but throwing 102 miles per hour in the spring, maybe it's June, July, but when he's up, I do think he can make a pretty big impact.
Congratulations to Sir Didis Subjects. You are number 1. You won the draft with a score of 99. That's terrific right there.
Wow.
Let's run through the teams real quick. I was second to last, followed by Frank Stampfl at 8, Welsh at 6, and Bubba, you're the best of us, Bubba, at 5. So congratulations to you.
Mediocre. Sounds
hot
good.
Take here on the back end of the draft wizard here is Joe Pisapia of FantasyPros like my draft more than anyone else. So feels good.
Would you like to know a fun fact?
Oh, fun fact is also the Welsh liked my draft too, by the way.
Well, Joe Pisapia also liked my draft the most of anybody, and I also liked my own draft into the third most.
All right.
I liked.
Bubba, who liked your draft the most? What experts there?
I'm trying to I just opened it up. Sorry. It took me as expert opinions. Thumbs up, Jesse Severe, Dalton Del Don, Ariel Cohen, Andy Behrens. Yeah.
There you go. Mr.
Scott
ATC.
White and Scott Bogman did not like my draft.
Well, they're angry people. They have a lot of inner rage too, especially Bogman. All right, Frank Stampfl, any hot takes there for you on this roster you constructed there? Any expert opinions to share?
No hot takes, lots of prospects, not something I typically like to do, but in a 10-team league, I think you can take on more risk, and perhaps that's what I did in the second half. I think I kind of played it safer in the first half of the draft, but then unloaded there on some prospects with the Evan Carters, the Wyatt Langfords, last pick with Paul Skeens. But again, as you guys have mentioned, the replacement value in a 10-team league is much better. I think it affords you that opportunity to take on more risk.
All I wanted was Scott White to hate Frank Straff or love it. One of the two. Nice. Ariel Cohen hated you the second most, though. Frank.
That's true.
So you can take that to Ariel.
Well, I hate Ariel every time he dominates me in pickleball. So.
I was going to say, when you go to the pickleball courts, remember this.
He's an animal. I've seen footage of him throwing softballs too. He's
so good.
Very catching baseballs in a home run derby. He's a monster.
Dude's a monster.
Yeah.
Stampfl, Contreras, Alonso, Torres, Lindor, Muncy, Encarnacion, Strand, Estrada, Acuna, Suzuki, Evan Carter, Langford, Jimenez, Kelnick, then Luis Castillo, Yamamoto, Devin Williams, Logan Gilbert, Ober, Darvish, Kimbrel. Then you had Bayo and Wu, Anthony Rizzo, Sanchez, Estevez, and Skeens. It feels like you got dinged a little bit because of the youth of this roster. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if things are just going based on projections here, that's probably why I'm lower in the standings. But again, if some of those guys come out and have huge years like we expect, the Evan Carters, Wyatt Langfords, obviously, it's harder to project rookies. So I get that. We all remember Corbin Carroll's projection from last year, and he blew that out of the water.
LOL.
And then
LOL indeed.
With the starting pitchers, it's like I got my 3 safe guys, and then I waited a little bit and took on a little bit of risk. So, the projections might ding some of those younger guys, the Christopher Sanchez's, Brian Bayos. But yeah, I'm totally fine with later on, second half of the draft, taking on more of that risk, more of that upside.
You can always use the cheat sheet creator too and use Frank's rankings, Welsh's rankings, mine, whoever you want, Bubba's rankings, and create your own as well. Or you can even use a hybrid when you have your draft sync on for any of the drafts over at Draft Wizard. Make sure, again, you sync your leagues, use Draft Wizard, use the draft sync technology to hook up and make sure you get your cheat sheet so you know exactly the players that you are trying to target. Because, yeah, the grades are fun. We always talk about them, but it's more important to get the players that you like, that you are high on, and the cheat sheets can help you do that, along with the pick predictor, too. So you know exactly where guys might go and when you should be aggressive and when you can lay off and maybe get a little bit extra time. Bubba, Ohapi, Bryce Harper, Albie, Swanson, Chapman, Reese Hoskins, Tovar, Aaron Judge, Michael Harris, Yelich, Lane Thomas, Outman, Kwan, and then Glasnow, Rodriguez, Duran, Luzardo, Seawald, Sale, Rodon, Imanaga, Kyle Harrison. This is a fun team. Turner, Ward, and Suarez and Canning. To me, this is a squad that's going to be exciting, but at times I feel like there's some frustrations that lie in this roster, Bubba.
It sounds like life. But fantasy baseball is supposed to be fun, so that's the point. And Frank took so many people that I liked on the turn, like especially the back half of your draft. That summed me up right there. But I like it. I want to take upsides on a 10-team draft. I think that's why, you look at my pitching stats; they're kind of underwhelming. But I'm hoping for Rodon and Sale and these guys to kind of return to their form, and that'll kind of change things around. So I think it's fun. To me, I also like taking some chances like that because it makes for easy drops throughout the season. You don't have to second guess things. You drop, you move on.
Welsh has Sal Perez, Matt Olson, McLean, O'Neill Cruz, Jake Berger, Luis Arise, Bryson Stott, Nolan Jones, Brian Reynolds, Riley Green, Tommy Edmonds, Shohei Ohtani, Josh Nauer, then the staff, Wheeler, Lopez, Skubal, Reagans, Phillips, Verlander, Scott, Fott, Lang, and then Scott Fott. That's a fun thing to say.
Scott and then like a law firm.
Fott, JD Martinez, Junior Caminero. I'm still mad, still salty. Emmett Sheehan and Reed Detmers. Welsh, how do you feel?
Yeah, I feel pretty good about it. I mean, there's a couple things that aren't of my style. That's probably the OBP change. A couple things didn't work, in my direction. It's tough drafting with almost half the league was industry here. And there's this interesting thing I saw someone talking about online of saying how difficult 10-man teams are, 10-league teams are. And it kind of is. 10-team leagues can be
easy
tougher.
For you to say.
I know. But in a 15, we kind of know what we're in for. There's the team balance. It's all the good hard versus what a 16 or a 20 team league is, where it's there's no good players. There's lots of good players. So standing out and trying to construct a roster that differs from everybody's, that every single team you're going to look at, you're like, oh, those are pretty good. So coming back to that, I was able to identify huge power pieces, and I was able to pick those stolen bases later and get huge strikeout options. There's things that the projections did not like that I did that I'm really comfortable with. And having Caminero as a bench bat, I think is a huge added plus across the board.
Welsh, I'm saying by Memorial Day is the latest that he's there. The latest.
He'll be up by May 1st. So I like this team. I would have given it a better grade, but I also don't know if it would have been the best of any of these teams. Shut up, Bubba.
I think we all like our team and give our teams better grades.
It's a 10 team. It's a 10 team. Of course we do.
Francisco Alvarez for me at catcher, Spencer Steer, Edward Julian, Gunnar Henderson, Jose Ramirez, Alec Boom, Xander Bogaerts, Fernando Tatis, Luis Robert, Ian Happ, Marcelo Zuna, and Brandon Nimmo, Marte, Noelve Marte, my other utility. Then Nola, Peralta, Bobby Miller, Iglesias, Joe Musgrove, Michael King, Eduardo Rodriguez, Ryan Pepio, Jose Leclerc. I love this pitching staff, boys. Cutter Crawford on the bench, Michael Garcia, Jorge Polanco, and Ryan Mountcastle. I'd go to war with this, especially the staff. I love the staff on this. I feel like, again, maybe one or two picks in some different areas. Of course, they'll always tell you what if I had drafted Freddie Freeman at 2-1 and a third baseman later, my score would have been significantly higher. Thanks, Welsh. Thanks, Welsh Wizard, for helping me out. But again, the best mock draft tool on the planet, Draft Wizard. Download the app, go to fantasypros.com/mock, run the simulator, use the mock draft lobby, join our Discord at fantasypros.com/chat because we've got a ton of mocks going on there. People are mock drafting all the time. If you want to flex your muscles against some of the best here, like Sir Subjects and Johnny Quest, who are here and won this draft, Jaeger bombs did pretty well too.
And so I want to
yes, and Chef Huge also did well. I want to thank our guest today from CBS, of course, Frank Stampfl and Fantasy Pros' own KC Bubba. I'll thank the Welsh, I guess, too, even though he stole Caminero from me. But great job, guys, as always. Always fun to hang out and get mock draft season going here because we are in the thick of it. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Frank and Bubba and Welsh, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.